After 5 years of full-time RV life, we've wandered coast to coast and even overseas.
From wild elephants in Thailand to the giant redwoods in California.
So today we thought we'd slow down a bit, grab a cup of tea, sit in the garden,
and share our 3 favorite adventures from the road.
Welcome to our garden chat.
Have a seat. Have a chat.
You know, Mike, we've been living this lifestyle now for about 5 years, and we've gone to a lot of different places. We've done Florida and Georgia and Arizona, Southern California and Utah, and wow, like we've just covered a lot, not to mention our trips overseas to France and the Netherlands and Thailand. And out of all of those things, what would you, if somebody asked you, Mike, what were the top 3 places that you would recommend? What would you say to them?
I don't know if I really have them in any particular order, but the 3, I could think of like a number of them. You know, the Grand Canyon comes to mind. We went there a couple of times, remember? But the one time we went with a group, which was fantastic, and we had a nice time. And I always thought one day I'd like to go back there because we didn't get to the bottom, and I'd like to hike. A lot of people go rim to rim. That's an idea depending on the season. But even just getting down to the Colorado River, I think would be enough if I could tent down there for a day or two before coming back up. Yeah, the Grand Canyon was a big thing. And you know what else I thought was really a big thing? Was that northern coast of Lake Superior. There was one provincial park called Sleeping Giant. That was the name of the park. And they called it Sleeping Giant because of the big, I don't know if it was 400 meters tall rock face that they called the Giant. And that was a heck of a nice hike. So I hiked up there, took the afternoon, to do it, not a bad walk, and brought a lunch, sat up there on the cliff's edge, watched the world go by, and that was really nice. I would go back there again, I think. But the Bay of Fundy, do you remember going to the Bay of Fundy? That was a few years ago, and we went to watch the tides come in, and they're coming so fast on the Atlantic side of the continent that you can actually see the water coming in. And then the bay itself was, 27 feet of vertical difference. I don't know what it was. It was massive, but that was a really cool spot where we walked under the Hopewell rocks and then they slowly disappeared. Not the whole rock, of course, but the space underneath them. Yeah, we've done a lot of nice things. Those 3 come to my mind. Many more do too, of course. Now, actually right back at you, Heather, are there 3 particular spots that we've seen that you really, that you remember that really stand out?
I have to say that Khao National Park in Thailand had to have been one of my absolute favorites. And we didn't have the RV, but one of the nice things about having an RV is that you do get the opportunity to put it away in storage and, go places like Thailand if you wanted to fly out and see the world. We don't have to worry about leaving a house behind for 2 months. We have a little more freedom that way. So I do think that is part of RVing it up that I enjoy. But Khao National Park in Thailand was phenomenal because we stayed on these little floating huts on the water. We were able to just jump right out our balcony and dive into some deep water to swim. And the mountains that came up, straight up, like sheer cliffs out of the water, incredible. Not to mention, in the evening and the morning, we went out on boat safaris to look for wild elephants. Wild elephants! That is just like too cool, right? Who goes and does that? So that stood out as pretty cool in my mind. Number 2, I would have to say, was Yellowstone National Park, because that's like walking on a different planet. The colors in the pools, the rocks, the bubbling, the mud bubbling, and it's just really unworldly. So that was like nothing you've ever seen before. And number 3, I would have to say, are the redwood forests. Those giant redwood trees. There was something calming and back to nature and made you really appreciate our world when you see the size of those and the peacefulness in the forest. There's just like a calm and wisdom. So those 3 for me stand out as my favorites.
But it's not just the places, is it? There's something more abstract. I mean, it's the experiences that we've had and what this kind of lifestyle really brings to the quality of our lives. You know what I mean, Heather, don't you?
You're right. What kind of things do you feel that you've enjoyed about living in the RV for the last 5 years?
Well, one thing I think that's important to us, because now that we've got families spread over a big country from east to west. It's kind of nice to have the ability to go and stay with, we've got a couple of kids out west, stay with them for a little while. We've got a lot of family out east. Maybe next year we go stay with them for a little while and go back and forth, or to the south when the weather says it's too cold up here in Canada to stay. So that freedom to move around is nice. And no matter where we go, we have our own bed and bathroom, and it's fantastic. We don't have to, impede on the kids and say that they have to put us up in a spare bedroom. I like that. Too, something about not just the moving, but at times we haven't made our plans yet. And sometimes you'll meet somebody at the campground and you get to talking and they'll say, oh, where are you going to be next month or something like that. And there are times where we honestly just don't know yet where we're going to be. And it's kind of fun not to know. I know it sounds a little strange, Blake, but there is a little bit of a thrill in just saying, I have no idea where I'm going to be sleeping in a couple of weeks or a month. So that little bit of a thrill is fun.
I really like both of those things too. But I also love the experiences that we've been having. It's incredible. The places that you see for years, you watch those PBS specials, National Geographic, and some of the animals and the places and you go, oh, one day I'd love to see that in person. And it's really cool that we are. That's been a lot of fun. So we've got the things that we do like. Is there anything that you don't like about living in the RV, or things that maybe you miss?
It kind of sounds funny, but part of being on the road that I don't care for is actually being on the road. Driving down the streets to get from place to place is not my favorite part of travel. I like being at a place and I like getting to the next place, but I don't like being in traffic. I don't like those long highway drives either. There's some nice scenery along the way, which is nice, but being on the road doesn't appeal to me too much.
You wouldn't have made a good truck driver.
Thank God I was not a truck driver. That is not for me at all. And I remember too, when we had a house that was in one place all the time, we would have things like a garage, a shed, a place where your hobbies could be done, whether that be whatever hobby you might like, painting, working on a car, woodcraft, whatever. That kind of stuff is just not practical when you live in a tiny little box that you tow behind a truck.
So true.
Yeah.
I also miss baths. I really like soaking in a nice hot bubble bath, so don't get that in the RV. And I miss gardening sometimes. I think in my retirement here, I would have liked to have had a little more of a garden, vegetable garden and herb garden. And with our travel, that's not so easy. We could kind of do it in some places, but in 2 months, you have to throw everything away because you move on. So it's not really that practical. And I do miss that.
And what about you? I mean, as an audience, people out there, you've seen things that we haven't seen. What have you seen? Leave us a comment. We're trying now for 2026, determine how we're going to get from the West Coast to the East Coast. And we got to look for some fun things to do along the way. We've got some ideas, but we don't have them all yet. So if you want to throw a few in the comments to help us out, I'd appreciate it. As always, we look forward to seeing you on the road. Check out some of our other videos and subscribe to our channel.
New content will be posted weekly.